All right, so get ready for this one. We're diving into the story. In Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, a routine police call going totally sideways.
Oh, yeah.
December 2023, police respond to a guy, Todd Harum, violating a restraining order.
Okay.
You might think, okay, routine police work, but this one, oh, this is anything but ordinary.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is this is way beyond a simple violation.
Yeah.
We're talking, assault, property damage, even threats of arson. So, like, from the moment police arrive, it's just a powder keg.
And that fuse is burning fast. I mean, this woman had just served Todd with the restraining order.
Right.
And his reaction is to completely snap, attacks her, trashes the place, starts ranting about burning the house down. Deputies show up, and he's barricaded himself inside with gasoline.
Wow.
Talk about escalating quickly.
Yeah, and then gasoline just throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah?
Not only are officers dealing with a volatile individual, but now they have a very real threat of a fire.
Right.
It completely changes how they have to approach the situation.
Right. Every decision becomes so much more critical.
Absolutely.
And to make matters worse, Todd is acting erratically, claiming he inhaled fumes from an aerosol can, can't breathe, saying he has nothing to live for.
Oh, gosh.
Every minute that ticks by, the tension is just ratcheting up.
And you have to understand, the police are walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
They are trained to de-escalate, bring things down.
Yeah.
But they're also facing immediate danger.
Right.
Smoke starts filling the house, visibility drops, breathing becomes difficult. Todd refuses to cooperate.
So it's just absolute chaos. It's hard to imagine being in that situation. So what happens next? They manage to evacuate Todd from the house, but the fire's still burning.
Correct. And that fire brings another layer of complexity, especially in light of the fact that Todd doused the flames with gasoline.
Oh, wow.
We're not talking about putting out a small kitchen fire. Gasoline is highly flammable, and even a tiny spark could have resulted in a massive explosion, endangering everyone.
That's terrifying. So they get Todd out, but he's still inside. What do?
So the deputies call for the fire department while trying to pinpoint Todd's location in the smoke-filled house.
Right.
They need to contain the fire, but also ensure Todd's safety, all while working with limited visibility and dealing with a highly volatile individual.
Yeah.
They're utilizing breaching tools,
Oh, okay.
specialized tools used to force entry, and fire extinguishers.
Right.
Imagine the kind of training and quick thinking needed in a moment like this.
It's mind-blowing. They finally locate Todd inside, but he's handcuffed and surrounded by smoke.
Yes, and he's clearly in distress. Remember, he was claiming to have inhaled fumes and exhibiting suicidal ideations.
Right.
So extracting him safely becomes even more critical. They have to move quickly because of the fire, but also carefully because of his condition.
And didn't they end up having to use a taser on him?
Yes, there was a struggle, and they ended up using a taser to subdue him. It's important to note this incident underscores the unpredictable nature of police work. What began as a response to a seemingly routine restraining order violation rapidly spiraled into a life-threatening situation for everyone present, highlighting the very real dangers officers face on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly a situation can turn from seemingly straightforward to incredibly complex. But before we go any further, I think it's crucial to shed light on Todd's background.
Yeah.
He had a history of domestic abuse, which adds another layer of complexity to this whole situation.
You're absolutely right. Understanding that history provides critical context for both Todd's actions and the police response.
Yeah.
Domestic violence calls are among the most dangerous for law enforcement. Emotions are already running high, situations can escalate very quickly, and there's a significantly higher risk of violence.
Okay, so now we know Todd is safely out of the house. What happens next? What are the legal repercussions of his actions?
Well, the consequences are pretty serious.
Yeah.
He's formally charged with arson,
Right.
which in Wisconsin is defined as intentionally damaging property by fire or explosion, and battery, meaning causing bodily harm to another person.
Right.
Both of these are considered felonies,
Yeah.
meaning they carry significant penalties.
So we're not talking about a slap on the wrist here.
No.
What kind of sentence did Todd end up facing?
He eventually pleaded no contest to both charges.
Okay.
This means he didn't admit guilt, but accepted the punishment.
Right.
The judge handed down a sentence of 8 years in prison, followed by 10 years of extended supervision.
Wow, that's a hefty sentence.
Yeah.
Clearly, the court recognized the severity of his actions and the danger he posed not just to the victim, but to the responding officers as well.
Exactly. It sends a very clear message
Yeah.
that this kind of behavior will absolutely not be tolerated.
Yeah.
But, this whole situation brings up another crucial point that I think often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
We focus so much on the immediate danger that first responders face in these situations.
Right.
But what about the long-term effects? What about the mental and emotional tolls these kinds of events take on the officers who put their lives on the line?
That's a really important point. It's easy to forget that behind the uniforms and the badges are real people who are repeatedly exposed to trauma, violence, and human suffering.
Yeah.
They witness things most of us can't even imagine, and they have to make life or death decisions under incredible pressure.
Absolutely.
That has to have an impact.
And yet there's often this expectation that they should just shake it off and move on to the next call.
Right.
The stigma surrounding mental health in law enforcement and other first responder fields can be incredibly strong, making it difficult for them to seek help even when they desperately need it.
It's like we expect them to be superheroes who are somehow immune to the psychological effects of these experiences.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're human beings, just like everyone else.
Precisely. And it's vital that we start recognizing the human cost of their service.
Yeah.
The rates of PTSD, depression, anxiety, and substance abuse are significantly higher among first responders compared to the general population.
Right.
These are not just statistics. These are real people struggling with the invisible wounds of their profession.
So what can we do? How do we start supporting these individuals who are putting their lives on the line for us every single day? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think one of the most crucial things is to break down the stigma surrounding mental health.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where it's okay for first responders to admit they're struggling to seek help without fear of judgment or repercussions.
It's about creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable, to process the trauma they've experienced without feeling like they have to hide it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need to provide them with access to quality mental health resources, specifically tailored to the unique challenges they face.
Okay.
Think therapy, peer support groups, mindfulness techniques, and other evidence-based interventions.
It sounds like we need a system-wide shift in how we view and support the mental health of first responders.
Yeah.
This isn't just about individual resilience, it's about creating a culture of support and understanding within these professions.
Couldn't agree more. We need to be investing in their well-being just as much as we invest in their training and equipment. It's an investment in the safety and well-being of our communities as a whole.
You know, this whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the unseen burdens that first responders carry.
Yeah.
We often hear about the physical dangers they face, but we rarely stop to consider the emotional and psychological impact.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the drama of the events, the fire, the standoff. But it's important to remember there's a ripple effect.
Right.
These experiences don't just vanish when the shift ends.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging that behind the uniform, behind the badge,
Yeah.
is a person with a family with friends with a life outside of work.
Right.
And the things they see and experience on the job, the trauma, it can have a profound impact on every aspect of their lives. It's not something they can just switch off.
And that makes me think about the cumulative effect, too.
Right.
It's not just one isolated incident.
Yeah.
It's the day in, day out exposure to these difficult situations.
Yeah.
The constant pressure to make these split-second decisions.
Right.
That could have life-altering consequences. You've hit on a crucial point. It's the accumulation of these experiences.
Right.
The constant exposure to stress and trauma that can really wear someone down over time.
Yeah.
And if they don't have the support systems in place, the resources to cope, it can lead to serious consequences.
So where do we go from here? We've talked about the problem, the stigma, the need for support.
Right.
What can we as individuals, as a society, do to make a tangible difference in the lives of these first responders?
Well, it's a multifaceted challenge.
Yeah.
There's no easy fix. But I think awareness is a great place to start.
Okay.
Simply acknowledging the problem,
Right.
talking about it openly, challenging the stigma
Yeah.
is a huge step.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where seeking help is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
And beyond awareness, what about concrete actions? What can we do in our own communities to support these first responders?
There are many ways to make a difference.
Yeah.
Volunteering in organizations that support first responders, advocating for better mental health resources, even something as simple as expressing gratitude
Right.
can go a long way. Remember, these are our neighbors, our friends, our family members. They deserve our support just as much as anyone else.
Well said. I think this whole deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. We started with what seemed like a routine police call and uncovered so much more.
Right.
The complexity, the dangers involved, the bravery of the first responders, and the often overlooked impact on their well-being.
It's a story that plays out in communities across the country every day.
Right.
And while we may not always see it, the bravery and resilience of these individuals is truly remarkable.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope our listeners are walking away with a deeper understanding of the challenges and sacrifices that come with being a first responder.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, I hope they're walking away with a sense of responsibility, a desire to be part of the solution.
I completely agree. The well-being of our first responders is intrinsically linked to the well-being of our communities. Their mental and emotional health matters, and it's up to all of us to create a culture of support and understanding.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. What can you do in your own community to support the mental and emotional health of the first responders who dedicate their lives to protecting us?
That's a great question.
It's a question worth exploring, and even more importantly, it's a call to action. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time,